Tonight could be absolutely make or break for Leeds United, and aside from that, we also have a lot of news and weird conflicts that we need to discuss. There's some pretty big Leeds United news about the discussions with Sky, and X-White has had his say on the time under Jesse Marsh, and there are two huge matches tonight that we need to discuss. But first, subscribe. It's always much appreciated, isn't it? It's got a nice community going. Anyway, diving into the news, Rodrigo has had his say on his time at Leeds United and his leaving the club, and there's a little bit to talk about in this. He said that on a collective level, last year was not very good in Leeds, and I can completely see that. We all saw that from the outside. The fact that the club just looked a little bit turgid, awful out of possession, not very good in possession, unable to do anything. Brendan Aronson had 9 shots on target all season, for context. Injury after injury after injury meant that Adams and Sinistero weren't available, and Jesse Marsh was doing his whole Marsh thing until we ended up signing several managers that didn't do a good job. So you could see why there was a little bit of an issue, but weirdly in this interview that he had, he was very keen to emphasize his own quality. He has since moved to Qatar, which obviously you'll have a little bit of a better time when you're a footballer playing in Qatar over the Premier League. But he was still happy to sort of emphasize his own quality in that Leeds United side, saying that he got double figures of goals, was playing very effectively, and to be fair, he was a lot of the time, but it didn't really matter for the team. And I still distinctly remember one time he tried a no-look pass across the entire width of the field to Pascal Struijk, giving it to, I think, an Arsenal forward when we were having a fairly good game. And whilst he did sort of have a good season last year, and it's admittedly on the old side, he did note that he had plenty of English options in the summer. He said that nothing concrete came of it. There weren't any detailed talks. But he could have stayed at a club in England, but he ultimately chose not to because elite football is very exhausting. He's taking a very deliberate step back from the game, and that sort of makes sense. He'll be 33. Is he 33 now? Or is he 33 at the end of his contract? I can't quite remember. Let's have a look. He's currently 33. And you can see why that isn't necessarily going to work in the Premier League. It wouldn't necessarily work in the Championship, and I'm sure he wouldn't want to play in the Championship anyway. Why not go to Qatar and get all the money that he can? But ultimately, I brought up this story because it demonstrates a really poor sentiment behind the scenes at Leeds United last season. If Rodrigo was aware that things were bad, and that might have honestly been the reason that he left, I can see other players knowing that that was the sentiment, knowing within the club that they were a little bit screwed, and that could have arguably been a reason that a lot of the players left. That could have been the reason that Sinistero left, because all he knows of Leeds United is a mess. And I'm kind of glad those players left, because now the ones that have a little bit of loyalty get to experience the good times. In addition to that, Leeds United have an ongoing war with Sky TV, and we have known this for a while. Fans have been singing it week in, week out, and this is no different. Having a good TV deal is absolutely key to any sports team. Look at the Premier League. Premier League clubs get over £100 million every single season from the broadcast deals. That's colossal. And you cannot complain in the slightest about that, because admittedly, the Premier League makes a lot of money. So that being distributed to the teams makes a lot of sense, rather than it just going to some executives at Premier League HQ. A good TV deal provides exposure, so people are watching your club around the world. It means that you're able to sell more kits. It provides convenience, so fans are able to actually watch their teams, and it provides revenue. But right now for the EFL, Sky isn't offering that. I'm going to go through the exposure, convenience, revenue thing again, but when it comes to exposure, the only times the EFL gets broadcasts is when the Premier League doesn't want them. Sometimes Friday nights. Saturday lunchtimes, maybe the occasional Sunday. For some reason, a 3 o'clock kickoff for Leeds versus Millwall as an example. And revenue isn't there either, and I'm going to dive into that now. Facility fees in the EFL are absolutely dreadful. You get up to £100,000 for a match, depending on what day or spot in the schedule that it takes. And that's only if you're the home team. If you're the away team, you get £10,000 for being televised. I'm going to use the context of the Plymouth match here. Leeds United had to completely rejig their schedule, had to fly down, this being the rearranged Plymouth game that I think got televised, had to fly down on a midweek night, which means the fans also have to go down during midweek and go back. and sort out all the TV stuff and go through interviews and ruin their own schedules for, off the top of my head, something like a quarter of Jorginho Reta's salary if the club gets 10k from it. That's awful. That is dreadful. That is not good value for money for Leeds United. In the Premier League, both sides, home and away, get £1.2 million. And it's not like viewership will change that much from Premier League to EFL when Leeds United are involved, because Leeds fans, no matter what, are going to watch those matches. And I've met, like, Leeds United versus Crystal Palace, yeah, you'll get a few casual viewers, but Palace is... I'll use Luton as an example instead. If you televise Leeds United versus Luton, you're going to get sod all from Luton. You'll get the Leeds United viewership and some casuals will tune in. You're not going to get 12 times more people watching that. And that's just showing that the TV deal is not providing any value for money for Leeds at the moment. And Phil Hay on the Phil Hay Show, I think, released yesterday, had a pretty good quote on this. Leeds were always of the view they were being shortchanged by it. The money wasn't great, but they were providing the really big audiences. If Leeds are manufacturing a huge audience for Sky TV in the EFL, but not getting paid for it, why would Leeds be happy? And if they're screwing fans over in the process, why would fans be happy? So the club isn't happy, fans aren't happy, and reportedly Sky aren't happy either. There was a, I think, supporters advisory board meeting the other week where Sky basically said to the club, and the club passed it on to the supporters advisory board, can you stop with the chants? It's potentially ruining the broadcasts. To which reportedly the club said, stop screwing us over. And in that case, I can really respect what the club have done, because it's good, because the EFL deal is really bad for us, and God, I can't wait to get out of the EFL again. But on that note, there are some pretty big make-or-break championship matches happening tonight. We have a game in hand over Ipswich and Southampton. After tonight, we will not, because Ipswich and Southampton receive their games in hand tonight. Ipswich play against Rotherham at home, which I think is going to be a colossal game because Ipswich are on fairly wobbly form right now, but Rotherham are not the hardest of opponents. I'm just going to quickly pull up the championship table just to make sure that I've got the specifics right. Rotherham are bottom of the league. We know Rotherham are bad. Rotherham are not a good team, and they will be away from home, and Rotherham haven't won away from home just yet. But Ipswich are on a wobble. And whilst I fully expect Ipswich to win this game, there's nothing to say that Rotherham won't be able to squeak out something, because on a good day, Rotherham can be a threat. So let's hope it's one of those days. But I think the more interesting match to watch tonight will be Southampton against Hull City. Hull City are currently in the race for the playoffs. They are in 8th place on equal number of points with Coventry, who are in 6th, and just 1 point behind West Brom in 5th. The fight for the top 2 is incredibly tight between the top 4, and it could be even tighter after the next week when we play Leicester, and I think they play Southampton after we play them. It could be down to 6 points between the top 4 next week, but if you look at the 4 below that, there's 1 point between them, and it is so obscenely tight down there that I genuinely feel like Hull City might get a result here and cause big problems for Southampton. And ultimately, I'll be watching that one with interest. I might stream it. I've not quite decided yet, but I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments down below whether you think Ipswich will drop points, Southampton will drop points. Comment if you've enjoyed, like the video, subscribe. You could even become a channel member, and I will see you later. Oh. I didn't know the sign fell over. I've just recorded with that. Be right.